What a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out first and foremost to Mobile Mac 777, who's been very vocal in the members only video chat. Thank you very much for that. I do gauge people's reaction by their comments in those members only videos, so thank you very much for your comments and thank you for becoming a Patreon. Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Dal West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Chris Hillman, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Missouri Bear, Henrik86, Liam Nedrick, Owen Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Nigh Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Alexander Main, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. I've got a couple of people in the Discord server, so I'll raise the mic on them, and you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Wiggles, you are a dumb ace.
Wiggles is a certified retard.
Tell us more. What's Wiggles done now?
He first posted how can I put this, proof against you. I posted in Master B first, with him actually making assumptions that on a flat plane, light isn't allowed to curve, and this somehow debunks flat Earth. Then I showed him demonstrations of angular compression that I did, and he says no, it's impossible on a flat surface, even though I've done it on a flat surface. Then his excuses were, the camera you used is not good quality. So I said fine, I can do it again. And then, because you can see, then I used that red block experiment with the yellow block with the red line on it. When you're close to the floor, the angle compresses from the floor over it, so you don't see the red line. So his argument is, if I went at altitude, you still wouldn't be able to see it because of the angular resolution of the camera. So he challenged me to it. I quickly did the 5-minute video.
Are those pictures in Skype?
Yeah.
Are they the ones that precede the message? Because I've got the message to Wiggles.
Yeah.
That's the last one you sent. So is it like 3 or 4 pictures before that as well?
Yeah, you'll see there's like a...
I see. I've got... It starts off with Wiggles. Yeah? And then it moves on to pictures.
Okay. But read it. It's comedy gold.
Too small for me to read. I've got it on screen. But you've given us the general gist of the conversation anyway, so...
Yeah, let me see. I want to see if I can find the first one. But anyway, yeah, that's the gist of it. Then he says, I can't do it, so I did a little video quickly, proving that altitude just changed it, that you can see the angular compression change. Then he runs around and says, no, now the floor's not flat enough.
Not flat enough.
Yeah, apparently there's bumps and stuff in the floor now. But when they make the observations and send it to us, they showed over the oceans that's got waves and dips and bulges and stuff, but I'm not allowed to do that if showing the same thing on a flat floor.
We're dealing with people that need it to be a sphere. Don't you understand that?
Zealots.
Yes, correct.
Correct. Because even in Discord now with that FUGD guy or whatever, he posts a reference citation thing of they're making atmospheric conditions data in a troposphere. and he doesn't understand how that's first assuming a radius. Even the math shows radius. When I showed him this, he says, no, I wasn't talking about the bottom of the reference, I was talking about the top. And it's done in the troposphere. Is it just me or is it quiet?
It is quiet. It's because 10th Man's had an earful, I believe, and then he's taken the hump and not come in yesterday or today. I assume that's the case.
I hope it's not.
Or he's just busy.
He wasn't supposed to. Yeah, maybe. He's got a form to run, so.
I think the same thing. I'm hoping not.
Because no, we didn't mean it very personal to him.
No, it won't be that. In fact, it definitely isn't that, because prior to his absence, QE came in and made a heartfelt apology for jumping down his throat, and it was accepted. Everyone shook hands, metaphorically, and that was it. So I don't think it's that, actually. Speculating. I wish I hadn't said that now. Oh well.
Well, actually, trying to, how can I say, knowing his character for the last few months and stuff, I don't think he's that type of person to take it personally.
I agree, and I was going to say that first, but then I remembered that he'd actually had an apology. So it's like, well, forget his character. He's already had an apology, so that can't be it.
Yeah, but he's the type of guy that'll step back a little bit and give it a little rest.
Yeah, if it's getting on his goat, I think you're right. That is definitely his character. He'll be like, well, great. I've had, just a couple of stressful days for whatever reason. Just step back for a couple of days. That's very wise, in fact.
Or he could just be busy.
Or he's just busy and he's like, wait, how are you guys when he comes in about half an hour or tomorrow or Monday or whatever?
Well, at least he can take it. We do miss him.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. Not that you guys aren't ace, but obviously, 10th Man's got a lot to say, and 99% of what he says is great.
Yeah, it's the way he brings it through. He's actually very, how can I say, thorough. The way he portrays what you tell him, what you teach. He actually talks it quite thorough through.
I remember when he first came on.
Spent till about 3:30 in the morning editing a video that I'm going to release tonight. So I don't typically release material from the after show. But, I'll put it out to the members, and then it'll go out on the second channel. Obviously, that 36 whatever hours later, and that typically encourages people to subscribe to my second channel, right? Because that's where it goes exclusively, typically speaking. And before that happens, I tend not to release stuff from it. However, I couldn't help myself because of yesterday's show, so I just couldn't help it. I was like, no, I've got to. I can't help not keep bashing this nail. I was, I made a video about SciManDan because
It was a very good show.
It was a good show, but SciManDan came up when I think it might have been Ryan. Was it you that super chatted about SciManDan, Ryan? Maybe he's stepped away from his mic. I think it
Sorry?
might.
Yeah.
We got Ryan in the Discord server. I was just asking if it was him. I think it might have been Ryan that sent me a super chat saying, because we happened to be on that housekeeping question, and he's like, SciManDan's example with the tractor debunks Coriolis effect. So that's what started it. That super chat, and from there I didn't expect, because I've done several videos on that prior to now, and had similar reactions each time. Nothing noteworthy. This time, for some reason, there's been a massive reaction to it. I don't know, it's something got phrased differently, or I don't know. But pointing out Dan's error in this instance has generated a big reaction. I think it's just the consistency of the argument getting more and more sharp every time it's brought up. And this time, the thing that's changed, in my opinion, is that we've recognised the burden of proof reversal fallacy that's used in this argument. So when they debunk having a second reference frame, We're not making that claim. We don't need a second reference frame. We're not claiming a second reference frame. There's no examples that we need to utilise frames of reference. They do, though. They're the only ones making claims that there's 2 reference frames, not us. So when they say, no, one reference frame, Earth and atmosphere travelling as one, it's like, so what are you debunking? The notion that there's 2? The only person making a claim that there's 2 reference frames is you, fundy globe believer. And then you get Dan with his, now it will become an infamous quote, you and your reference frames are ruined. Now, we don't have any reference frames to be ruined, but Dan's suggesting that the reference frames used in a Coriolis example to claim the globe is spinning are ruined. Wonderful, because we've not got any reference frames to be ruined.
But he never used any reference to Coriolis there anyway. All he used was conservation of linear momentum, as they said. So we don't understand. Hey,
Flying
Hey,
that claim.
good morning.
Morning, 10th.
Hey, 10th.
Yeah, yesterday my internet was down, so sorry.
We were speculating.
They
that
not
you,
told you.
we thought you thought like hated us because of the argument. Then we remembered that QE had apologised to you, and we're like, no, it must just be busy then.
Are you kidding? I run towards trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I say. Your character, you won't stay away.
No, I tried to get on, and so I even jumped in my car because it was the Thursday where I teach the golfer, and I said, well, I'll catch some of the show in the car and do it on the phone. And the stupid hangout wouldn't work.
Bummer.
Well, you missed an epic show.
Well, I missed you.
Well, I'll listen back to thanks, Neil.
Well, there's a bit going to be released, so although you're not a channel member, and the channel members obviously have already watched this, but the section with Rumpus directly after the live show ended, so almost immediately after the live show ended, it kicked off in a big way with Rumpus white knighting again for SciManDan, telling us how his example doesn't have drift. But yeah, it's that's the bit that I think we're going to take away from this, the fact that we don't have any reference frames to be debunked. So when they start telling us about their examples with one reference frame and how they beg the question at Earth spinning and the atmosphere spinning with it, even though we've got multiple directions of surface winds, when they start claiming that, people will start asking, sorry, what exactly are you trying to debunk with this? Why are you telling us that there's only one reference frame? You trying to debunk the fact that you claim there's 2? Because we're not claiming that. You are. Reference frames ruined, though, right? Only one of them. Like Dan says, yeah? So you're ruining your reference frames that you need to claim Earth spins? Epic. This gets better and better.
Our claim? He's saying it's our claim that Earth spins?
Yeah. He's very foolishly, 10th, sent me a tweet saying, you and your reference frames are ruined. And then he shows an example of a man not drifting. Not realising that we don't make any claims that require reference frames. The only claims being made with reference frames that he says are ruined are them.
His.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. This has gotten really worse. They've more than doubled down. First, they're saying there is Earth-based Coriolis. Then they're arguing against Earth-based Coriolis. Now they're jettisoning the reference frames and saying they're ours.
Attempting to, but that's the part of the trick that's been highlighted this time, and the reason I think we've got some fundy lawyering going on from Rumpus coming in over and over to defend and White Knight for Dan's egregious error. If you're going to start claiming that you and your reference frames are ruined when your reference frames are needed to claim Earth spinning, that's a big problem. That's why Rumpus is here.
Oh, yeah. Well, if Earth is spinning, then you're going to have drift.
Yeah. So then they defend the idea and notion of one reference frame and no drift. It's like, so you're saying no drift? All right. You're the only one claims there is. Unlucky.
Too much, man.
Yeah, I was telling you, my son kept telling me that he's showing you that Earth and atmosphere move as one.
Well, then no
He
drift.
showed me some other thing. Yeah, then no drift, and and the whole thing with the conservation of momentum,
Which is
and
not
Rumpus started
Coriolis.
going on. Yeah, what he started saying about, well, the Earth is spinning, and he gave the Miles power. I mean, you just assert that without proving it? That drives me crazy.
No, that's fine. That's begging that. No. This is subtle, but that's fine. So, okay. So their rebuttal is beg the
Lagging very
question.
bad. I have to go, guys. Enjoy your weekend.
See
All right,
you
see
later.
Fletcher.
Thanks, Flatzoid. Like, when they beg the question, Neil, and say, no, the plane accounts for it because it's travelling with the atmosphere. Number one. So they're debunking their own claim that there's drift then. 2 reference frames. That's the first thing. Yeah? So, no drift. Secondly, to assert, I assume Earth's turning, and I assume atmosphere turns with it, leaving us with no proof of drift. That's a begging the question fallacy that leaves them with no proof of drift. They're assuming their outcome, I assume Earth and atmosphere travel together, when they're trying to prove Earth spins. So they're just begging the question. But their begging the question is a refute of their claim that they've got 2 reference frames. So they're arguing against their own claim that needs 2 reference frames. And like I said in the last previous couple of shows, Dan's going to become the poster child for this. Thanks, Dan. No drift. Reference frames ruined. Who's using reference frames to make a claim then? You Globers are. You're using 2 of them and claiming 15-degree drift. And according to Dan, those reference frames are ruined, and he's giving us examples with no drift in them. But we don't need reference frames, Dan. You do.
Amazing. Such blindness to their own position.
Yeah, it's true. We don't need no reference frames. We're not claiming the Earth is spinning at all.
No, what happens, Neil, is when they come here with their nonsense, we can explain their reification of a globe model, because that's all it is. And in that reification of a globe model that's spinning, to have Earth-based Coriolis, you're going to have 2 reference frames. So we know their argument for their reification model better than they do. Then when they're embarrassed because there isn't any drift, they have to argue as if we made that up and it's our argument, when it's really their position said perfectly, but they don't even know their position.
Exactly, that happened yesterday. So the guy, I lulled him into a full sense of security, saying, okay, I'll describe how the pendulum works. Earth rotates underneath the pendulum at 15 degrees an hour, so you've got an apparent precession in a, what's it called again, pendulum. Well, that claim has Earth turning underneath the pendulum as a second reference frame. And the guy, Daily T, was all for, yeah, Nathan described it perfectly. Really good description. Thanks. That's great. Yeah. What, me describing a second reference frame with Earth turning underneath? All right. So about these aeroplanes that don't have Earth turning underneath them, his response was to say, no, I don't claim drift. And literally I counted it was 46 seconds before that. It said the interesting thing about the pendulum is when you move it on a latitude line, it affects the precession. It's like precession is drift. So you're claiming where you are on a presupposed spherical Earth will affect the rate Earth turns underneath your pendulum. So 2 reference frames. But he's not claiming drift. That was his response. I'm not claiming drift. Because he's just detailed how we'll observe the plane not drifting. So I go on to explain that Coriolis effect is you observing something seem to drift only because you're turning underneath it. And it's claimed that's Earth turning underneath stuff to give you that effect of something seeming to drift when it isn't. I.e., the plane doesn't have to account for you looking at something seem to drift because you're turning underneath it. And you describing how the plane and the Earth aren't drifting apart, they're moving as one, flies in the face of the claim that they've got these 2 reference frames and drift that proves we spin. So they say, I'm not claiming drift. No, the plane and the atmosphere travel together. It's like, yeah, you are. You're claiming drift with the pendulum. But then when it comes to anything in physical reality, other than an assertion about a man-made device, we don't experience drift and they justify it with 1 reference frame. Oh, well, obviously, we've only got 1 reference frame. It's like, you've just claimed drift. That needs 2. So you're fighting against your own claim simply because it isn't observable in reality. No drift. Earth doesn't turn underneath stuff. So don't justify why it doesn't when that's the thing you need to prove. We'll just point out that, well, when you're telling us that you've only got 1 reference frame, you know you're not debunking a claim we make. We don't claim there's 2. You do.
Oh my gosh, this is insanity. So the whole purpose of the pendulum is to prove their reification model is working because they're saying that the Earth is moving under the pendulum. But then they're saying, no, there's no drift.
Yep.
On the world.
Yeah, here's a pendulum that proves Earth turns underneath, giving you drift. Oh, right, Earth turns underneath the plane, so it drifts. No, we've only got one reference frame. Why would you think we've got two? Because you just told us that there's two. It's your claim.
Well, this is the problem. When you have a model and you give it a radius, then you say it's reality. Then we're going to go to real geometry, right? And we're going to say the geometric horizon needs to be at 1.22 miles. It's not there. Oh, well, it's there, but you can't see it. Well, there is Earth-based Coriolis, but you never see it. Everything is so fake that you have to be an idiot to buy into it, especially when they validate it as reality, but can never show it to you.
Yep.
Yeah, but see, we look into this, the Coriolis, and we define it so well, and we know every angle of it. That's why I believe that Globebusters thing was so detrimental, because the normal person is going to look and say, oh, look, they proved it. Flat Earthers proved it. 15-degree drift. And that's it. That they're going to run with that.
No, it's not detrimental. It's a man with
to the
pride.
regular person, but they're not going to look into it, then.
I can't disagree with that, 10th. It is definitely detrimental.
Well, let me finish. It's a man with pride who won't admit he was wrong. That's the detriment.
No. Stop. Let's not have a personal dig at Bob.
It's not personal. It's what happened.
Just stop. Hold on. The argument that is asserted with a gyro is a Foucault argument. Now, that argument is being utilised by one of our own, Bob Nodell, to assert we've got two reference frames. Forget Bob and his pride. It's irrelevant. The fact they've pinned it on him is probably a success on their side when I attacked him for it. Now, I'm attacking it because of the detrimental effect when it goes out on, not national TV, but Netflix. Well, that is what I was addressing. Because it's detrimental, that's why I'm going and attacking one of my own. To a massive detrimental effect to me and my subscriber base, etc., etc. My YouTube career suffered, and I knew it would. But because it was so detrimental, the claim being asserted, not Bob's position on it.
I look at it differently. I do understand what you said there, and I'm in total agreement if you look at it from that view. But I look at it totally different. You took a stance, and you don't care about the viewer count. You actually care about the topic and addressing it properly, about the definitions of what a scientific method actually is or isn't. And so because you did that, you didn't suffer any loss of real people. You suffered loss of people who you probably wouldn't want anyway, because they're not thinking people. So to me, all of these things, when the person takes a stand on an issue, no matter what the issue is, there's going to be loss and suffering. But it's really not loss and suffering, because he's honest. He's doing what's right. And that's the win.
I know what you're saying, but the right people is anyone. And the people I want here is all of them. And knowing as a YouTuber that it would be detrimental was a bitter pill to swallow, because as much as people might not like this, first and foremost, I am a YouTuber. That's my job. Now, the topic is very near and dear to me. And when it comes to a choice between the cash I'm bringing in and my integrity to the topic, the integrity to the topic has to come first, because the former would suffer if I didn't adhere to that. So it's still, if you want, it's not altruistic in that regard either, because I'm saying, well, if I don't stick to my morals, eventually the people who you describe as the people who do count will go, hang on a second. Everyone in the comments is talking about Earth being proved to be spinning at 15 degrees an hour drift underneath the gyro, and you're not attacking this. It's even being claimed as science. Why aren't you going out and attacking this? That's what I'd get, and people would eventually bugger off because of my lack of integrity. So I had to weigh it up. How much I'll lose versus my integrity and the actual discussion being progressed. Now, after a very, very careful assessment based on the detrimental effect of the Netflix presentation, I decided that it was going to be long-term beneficial. Very long-term. I don't know how long ago that was, but I'm only just now starting to see the end of it. I'm not even joking. Right? And what do I want from Bob? I want his support. I want him to promote me and get me subscribers. Totally selfish. That's all I want from him. Yeah, that's what I want. So do I want him telling everyone I'm a glorified grocery delivery guy who doesn't know anything about science? No. Does he want me on his show telling him he doesn't know what science is? No. Definitely not. Pissed him off royally. I got very upset. I lost lots of subs. My integrity was kept. He doesn't give a shit about that. Bob's not going to care. So it was all bad in terms of internal conflict in Flat Earth, me and my channel and its growth. That was all negative. However, I could still get praise for it, and great, wonderful, but, you know, the people who buggered off, it would be nice if they were still here, you know.
Well, no, look, well said. Number one, off the bat, I have never met Bob. I don't know Bob. I have no angst against Bob. I have no hatred for Bob. Bob's the one who introduced me to your show anyway. I was just starting to listen to their program, and he had mentioned the boys from England. And I'm saying, who are the boys from England? And that's when the whole thing kind of happened. And then, anyway, so that being said, now here's the other side I'm giving you, that people, when I saw you do that, and I saw how the response wasn't, appropriate, I said, well, you know what? We all have problems. We all do things, but this guy's going to stick to his roots. I'm going to follow this show. I wasn't even a panel member then. I didn't even know how I became a panel member now. But the whole point is, you caused me to follow you. So yeah, you may have lost people, but those were non-thinking people. So the thinking people followed you, is what I'm saying.
As I say, the right people, or anyone.
No, they'll come back, trust me, because they'll follow anyone. The leaders follow the truth.
Well, I'll focus on the bit that backs my point that you've said, which is that... No, maybe not. I won't.
No, you're right. You're right, but I'm right in this little nook and corner that I'm coming from.
But, okay, you pointed out that our mention on Bob's show increased my subscriber base by at least one confirmed subscriber. You. That's without doubt. So factually accurate when I say...
What more do you need? Come on, man.
Well, what I'm saying is that beyond that point, beyond the point where I challenged Bob on his scientific vernacular and the Netflix claim and gave him an out, so to speak, saying, no, actually it works to our favour. If they assert you've proven Earth turns underneath, they all deny it and say no drift. So great. They're pinned down to a claim that Earth turns underneath second reference frame. Now, obviously, that's no good for Bob because they're saying, like idiots, Bob proved Earth spins. No, he didn't. He claimed you think Earth turns underneath as a second reference frame. That's debunked by flight times not being shortened because Earth isn't turning underneath them as a second reference frame. So that came out of that. Everyone now, at least to a certain extent, has got a good understanding of what the Coriolis claim involves. So when they deny it, like Dan... You can say, what? No drift, Dan? What did Bob prove? 2 reference frames, and you're saying reference frames ruined. And the only person supposed to be claiming reference frames are the people who claim that there's 2 of them proving Earth spins. So that was useful.
Yes.
But my point, I'm just getting there 10th. My point, before that, he's saying the guys from England, nudge, nudge, and people are coming and subbing. And after that, Nathan's a dick, definitely not having the same effect. Yeah?
Yeah, that's right. But that's all right. Here's why. If as they say, Bob proved that the Earth was turning under the gyro, well then, great. It's got to turn under everything else that's in the inertial reference frame. So when we show it doesn't, then Bob didn't prove what they say Bob proved. It's over there if you're thinking. Now, if you're a stupid person who doesn't think and just wants to believe a reified model that never could show itself in reality, any proofs for it, well, then you just stay right where you are because you deserve it.
And also,
I think they should.
And also, like and subscribe, comment, share, hit the super chat, please stay.
Hey, yesterday. Oh, go on, Neil.
This is what I think it should be. If you're going to watch that Netflix thing and you're going to say, look, Bob Nodell proved 15 degree an hour drift, then there has to be a little a little thing that says tune in to Nathan Oakley on the answer for this. Then it's fine.
That's not going to happen. So yesterday after golf, I decided to go visit my friend who owns the restaurant. So I go in there and he's got another guy sitting at a table with him, and I thought he was doing an interview or something. So I just waved him, went to another area, and he says, no, come over here, sit down. So I come there, and I kind of recognize this guy, and he says, well, you know this guy, right? And I go, yeah, I think so. And he, you know what the guy said first thing? Hey, you're the guy who believes in flat Earth, right?
Ace.
right off
Ace.
right off the bat, right? And I go, right. I go, not only do I believe it, I know it. I go, would you like to talk about it? And so we did just for a little bit, but just share some of the top 3 there. And he just kept nodding his head, agreeing with me. So here's a guy who isn't into the subject, but remembers a time in the past where we talked. And he greets me with, you're the guy who believes in flat earth. And then when I go through some of the top 3 with him, he's nodding his head, agreeing with me. Now, he's a good guy and everything. So what I walk away from that is that when I saw it, I took the bull by the horns, and I'm on the front lines with you. This guy sees it, agrees with it, at least in my presence, with a nod of the head on all the arguments, but he won't go out there like an alpha male and just take the bull by the horns and talk about it. For whatever reason, it's connected with me, and I'm willing to lose or gain friends over it. And this guy probably isn't, because he's just not there for whatever reason. It's just people are different.
Yeah, why is it that it connects with some people? Like, it connected with me right away. Bang! I was like, oh, shoot.
Who knows? Good question. Good question. Why do people react so differently? When I did the GoFundMe with Nick, he and I were so similar in terms of our attitudes towards it. I can remember chatting to him, feeling like a little kid again. Oh, isn't it exciting? I wonder what the sky is. I wonder what the sun is. Wow. That sort of sense of joy was what I got pretty much straight away. I mean, when I described my first epiphany, I described going in and shaking my wife and going, Earth's flat. Wow. And they're going, oh, sleep. It's 4 a.m. Go away. That's my experience of it. But everyone else is sort of describing well, I immediately set out to debunk it. Oh, did you? Well, I instinctively knew from all the travelling I'd done and my basic experience of lack of Earth curvature that what I experienced didn't have any Earth curvature. So when it was expressed in a way that I hadn't heard it before by Math Powerland, I might add, in terms of him just phrasing those 2 words, flat Earth, I was like, oh my God, it's flat. How exciting. But no, everyone reacts like that.
I didn't even know about the Bible. The Bible's answers to that, or just the history of it with the firmament and everything. I used to just read right past that, and then when you start digging into it and start learning what the words mean in Hebrew and Greek, that's when everything opens up.
Or like rakia.
Rakia is one, but the Earth is immovable. It's got foundations. It's on pillars. Then it talks about a cornerstone for the Earth. The ball doesn't have a cornerstone. It never references any kind of movement in any way, shape, or form that matches the heliocentric model. It does talk about some kind of barrier over it, the rakia, that separates the waters from the waters, which actually aids our argument about you need a membrane of some type to contain gas pressure. So there is, like I told this guy yesterday, I said, you know what? There is no outer space the way they describe it. It's everything's inside God's firmament, because he's a Christian. And so he says, yeah, so you're saying, and I'm going, that's right. Yeah, there is no outer space. It's all fake. You can't.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Paul Hall, Neil, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Hey.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
I actually might get to interact right now. Jesse's gone off to a doctor's visit. Lily's watching her show, and it might be quiet for a little bit, so I get to interact a little bit more today, maybe. We'll see.
Excellent.
All right.
That's good to hear. Very pleased to hear. Well, pleased to hear that your daughter's going to the doctor. I shouldn't really say that, should I? Good that you've got no interruptions. There we go. That's better. Any
Well,
signs?
it's just a check. It's not a like she's sick visit. It's a well check visit. That's all it is. So,
Oh, jolly good. So yes, excellent stuff. Happy days. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Not from the golf course yesterday.
Not from West Wales.
No, I don't think they bring it up a lot anymore. They just go straight to just assuming that the Earth is a globe anyway.
Like the way they started then, back to the beginning, when they assumed it.
Oh, Rumpus does really get old-fashioned and start from the ground up with boats going over the horizon every time. He does go there every single time, like a really, really stubborn mule. But most ballers don't even do that anymore.
So Rumpus says there's Earth curve that the boats are going over.
Oh, he did last time he came on, right? Or the time before?
So how come we don't see this Earth curve, Rumpus?
He always does,
speak of?
Rumpus. Rumpus always goes with the boats over the horizon.
Yeah, he starts ground up. He's just a traditionalist like that.
well, at what point with the black swan do boats go over the horizon with the black swan? At what point?
Tangent point. You need a geometric R value to assert refraction to debunk the black swan assertion. So the modus tollens asserts that if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. The distance to horizon in the black swan image is in excess of 10 miles, where the geometric horizon would be at 1.2. Their rebuttal: we do not see the geometric horizon. The line to the horizon is bent with refraction. Now their line to their bent horizon is utilising the R value. Their refraction that they're describing is terrestrial refraction. That's 7/6 of the R value, or any derivative maths that they might employ given whatever they are observing. So they have a derivative value of R. Well, R is a geometric value that gives them a tangent point at the horizon. That's their assertion, a physical blockage at the horizon called Earth curve. Now, to make that assertion with geometry, you need a tangent. Al-Biruni is claimed to have measured that very tangent to give him the R value. So, to summarise, you can't move a physical tangent point with a bent line because it stops being a tangent point, and their geometry is based on having a tangent point, leaving the model with a paradox. You can't use R to move a horizon with R if you can't measure R. Globe model dead. It's left in a paradox. It implodes upon rebuttal to the black swan.
Dead on arrival.
As we're mentioning it now, any evidence of the R value, Earth radius formerly measured or claimed to be measured by Al-Biruni at a tangent point horizon that was formerly known as Earth curve?
DOA.
Dead on arrival. That's it. So here's the problem there. They come up with a model. Forget Al-Biruni. He never saw anything. They come up with a model that says he did see something. And you put a radius of 3959 to that model. And you call it reality. And you make all these claims up until 2020. And then in 2020 in January, QE says, wait a minute, let's check out that 3959. If you're going to stick to that 3959, because that's what they're defending here, and the black swan destroys the 3959, then you're going to have that Earth curve start at 1.22 at 1 foot observer height. Has to, because you're defending 3959 as the radius. Now, if you came and said the radius was 10,000 or 20,000, then we would have a new number that you would have to defend. But since you've already spoken and said that the radius of the Earth is 3959, it must be defended geometrically. And when you go to defend it geometrically, it's not there at the 1.22, which means it's all made up. It's not real.
Shout out to Alexander, who says, 4 more hours. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Also, shout out to Dank. He says, join us on Patreon. Support what you love. Oh, thank you so much. Dank is one of my Patreons. Really appreciate you cheerleading for me, Dank, with the super chat, paying me to cheerleader my Patreon. Yes, indeed. Join us on Patreon. You get to see all sorts of interesting stuff behind the scenes, like the acoustic treatment video I'll be making shortly as I've just ordered some more panels. Exciting stuff. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No.
There is a claim that we've got 2 reference frames and 15 degrees an hour drift, though, eh?
Oh God, not again. I'm still dizzy from yesterday.
Got a quote for it, though, Arwin. Really good quote. Should anybody ever tell you that, obviously, Earth spinning, we've got Coriolis effect, you can quote Dan and say, you and your reference frames are ruined. SciManDan.
Oh God.
We don't use reference frames. Flat earthers, pay attention. We don't claim anything with reference frames. Next time your fundy opponent tells you with justification for why he's only got 1 reference frame, ask him what he's debunking. Why are you debunking the idea that we would have 2 reference frames exactly when we, as flat earthers, do not need to make that claim? That's actually your claim that we have 2 reference frames and Coriolis drift. But yet, like SciManDan's response, reference frames ruined. So you and your reference frames are ruined, globe believers. Thanks, SciManDan. No drift.
Yeah, stop projecting reference frames on us.
Yeah, you and your reference frames, globe believers, they're ruined. 2 reference frames, ha ha ha, no drift. Reference frames ruined. SciManDan. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon, bearing in mind, Conspiracy Cats 2019, quote, without the container, there can be no pressure, end quote. Conspiracy Cats. Another globe believer.
No. But oh God, they love to tell you though. They did it in my chat today in the Flat Earth Early Bird. Like, but you can't weigh gas, it goes down. And then, yeah, but you keep overlooking that you actually need to contain it in a container first in order to do that. Otherwise, it's going to expand in all directions in every single scenario, no matter what type of gas you're referring to as an example. But, yep. You always need a container. Always.
I waited for the pause, and then you spoke anyway.
It's Arwin. It's Arwin. Just go, Paul. Go.
I know. I was actually somebody was trying to. You remember I mentioned I used that Mick West simulator to disprove that gas pressure, gets off into the space. Somebody said that the setting. The always argument they make to me is the settings were wrong. So if you set things just right, you can make it work. You know what I mean? And usually they have to turn off all the heat for it to work. And I thought that, well, there's this big heat generator thing that's out there. I don't know what you call it. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure what it is. Yeah, the sun. That's it. So you have to turn off all the heat to get that to work. Just to give it a little kinetic particles and it will stay there. But as soon as you had this heat source constantly bombarding the Earth, I think that kind of would debunk their own argument. And then, even if that's the case, you have to mess with the physics to make it work.
So, we've got that Michael Boland example where he's got the gas bromine in a bulb, and then he's got a little valve and a vacuum in another bulb next to it, joined by the valve. And then he opens the valve. Do they argue that no, you just need to change some of the parameters, when he very specifically details that the entropy increase has nothing to do with any heat change.
No, he does. Yeah, it does. Nothing changes. And another thing I told him too, I was like, whenever you play with this, just let it run. Just don't touch it. Just let it run.
No, they don't like
that. That's what
I
did.
No. They don't like that. So they also give us a physical example with sulfur hexafluoride, and they'll show us a short excerpt from a video that's maybe 3 or 4 minutes long, where they put a piece of cardboard over the top of a fish tank and then pump sulfur hexafluoride from a container into the fish tank. And then they show for a short period of time that they can float a tinfoil boat, which is lighter, less dense, than the gas. And they show it and everyone claps, and then fade to black. Bearing in mind that the law that's describing how the gas would fill the space, the entropy law, is directly proportional to time. Therefore, your sulfur hexafluoride will still succumb to entropy. It might take longer. It's proportional to time. But they don't like that. They like to show examples that are very short and sweet that make their point, or so they think. You know, they'll pump gas into a pipe, a container, and then say, hey, presto, gas pressure without a container. Look at my gas pressure in a pipe. That's gas pressure without a container. The pipe's not a container. Don't look at the pipe. Don't look at the pipe. Look at my eyes, not around the eyes.
Or all the GIFs where they last about 3 seconds, and then even the one GIF that shows the bouncy balls bouncing around, it's in a boxed container. Box, has sides. I think that's funny. I agree with you.
Well, I think what Arwin said about all their statements about gas being weight, it's all in a container, right? So now, if you flip the question around and say, please show me the vacuum of outer space, they have to get a container and get all the gas out to even come to any minuscule version of it, because it's 10 to the minus 17 torr out there. So they can't even show a vacuum without a container, because the gas that's around would not allow them unless they block the gas out. So you can't have gas pressure next to a vacuum. Both ways, you can't.
Got a few fundamentalist zealots that we can actually attribute to these arguments now. So obviously you've got Mr. Sensible with his quote regarding the black swan. So in terms of the argument for there being a physical geometric spheroid horizon, the rebuttal from Mr. Sensible was, at best, you would have disproved the radius of the Earth. He went on to say, it doesn't mean we haven't got a sphere Earth. So, Mr. Sensible's quote, at best you would have disproved the radius of the Earth, that's attributable to the claim that we have a physical geometric spheroid horizon that's requiring an R if they're going to say that refractions move the horizon. At best you've debunked the radius. The radius is what they use in their refraction value, hence Mr. Sensible has attributed that. Gas pressure without a container, obviously it's Thunderfoot Clown. Gas does not go down, go boom boom like bouncy balls poured into a fish tank. That's ludicrous. Making me question his PhD. Maybe he's just lied. Edited his own quote on Wikipedia. It's got a little fuzzy picture of him wearing the hat, but when you're declaring gas go down, go boom boom like bouncy balls in a fish tank in violation of natural law, you're going to have flat earthers pointing out how stupid you are. Embarrassing, considering you're a claimed PhD. Claimed. Yet to see that confirmed. I think he might be a fraud. Another shout out to Alexander. 10th man is ace. He is ace, you're not wrong. So you've got Thunderfoot Clown attributed to gas pressure without a container. Obviously, SciManDan is now permanently tired with the Coriolis argument. Thanks, Dan, no drift. You and your reference frames are ruined. SciManDan.
Don't forget Rumpus saying second law doesn't apply to the Earth. Don't forget Rumpus.
Yeah, Rumpus is a nobody. Not that Mr. Sensible is exactly a somebody, but he's more of a somebody than Rumpus is.
Have you had?
But that's the magic trick. If you listen to Thunderfoot, that's the magic trick. Imagine these bowls. Listen to the tone of his voice, and then the image he puts on. He's doing a magic trick.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, you can do all the magic you want, but when you're trying to reify a model and can't show what you're trying to tell us in reality, you resort to magic tricks, right?
Who do we assign to gravity? It's Sleeping Warriors department, this one, so he's not here to ask who would be reasonably assigned the embarrassing debunking of
The
whichever.
force that's not a force, but you can think of it as a force, Muser.
Oh, it's got to be Musa, but he's not a character in our realm, right? I mean, he just comes and he's popped his head in. He got quoted before that by QE. I suppose he's in our realm. He's been on Fight the Tight Shirts show, right? So yeah, he's in our realm. Yeah, right. Absolutely, Musa. His quotes are legendary. Why am I even questioning this?
It's the best because he says, "Look, it's not one, but if you want to think of it, go ahead."
Any single viable hypothesis for from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics? There's a kind of couple that we can, because there's obviously several fields. But for astrophysics, it's got to be Michelle, right? Our cousins are rocks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Complicated rocks.
Complicated. Sorry, Arwen.
Wait a minute. Wouldn't Danny Faulkner be that one though? Because he's actually went to flat Earth conferences. He's
astronomy. Yeah.
Earth.
She's astrophysics. He's astronomy. Or is he cosmology? I forget. Michio Kaku had got to be in there as well, isn't he? A cosmologist.
And we got Dr. Becky as well.
Yeah, like I said, there's a few pretender clown scientists that we can attribute to the question of any viable hypothesis from any of these fields. And there's all sorts of quotes.
And their priest, Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's got to be in there too.
Yeah. Well, any of them. You can quote anything that any of the people in any of these fields have said, and it will be a laughable pseudoscience claim.
When Neil deGrasse Tyson put out that video of the field goal and attributed it to Earth turn, that he was being honest if the Earth was turning. They hate him for it because the Earth ain't turning.
Yeah, they hate him, but simultaneously must worship him. It was epic. You should have been here 10th yesterday, right? We're pointing out that Dan's showing no drift. And from the chat, the coward, he's telling Rumpus to tell me things about his argument. Number one, you bloody coward, Dan. We're on a public show. It's not like your echo chamber. You can come in, right? Open to all, right? Maybe you need a neutral platform, right? Now that we've challenged your stupidity with this egregious error. Drift you're not showing. Nevertheless, him showing us no drift and telling us, quote, you and your reference frames are ruined, said to Rumpus that he believes in the drift. Because he's got to. The priest says drift. Tyson says drift. So Dan better believe it. Good dog, Dan. You believe in drift? Why are you showing us an example without drift? Furthermore, that drift you believe in, that needs reference frames. 2 of them. And they're ruined, right, Dan? You and your reference frames are ruined? I'm so pleased you phrased it to me. Because they're not, are they? I don't need reference frames. You and your reference frames, Neil deGrasse Tyson. For your drift. They're ruined. You and your reference frames. But Dan has to concede to Rumpus, this scummy, greasy lawyer that's in here defending him when he's watching a public show he can join, is telling him that he does believe in drift. All right, it's interesting that you believe in drift. Why on earth would you send somebody an example that claims reference frames are ruined and showing no drift when you believe in the drift? Because Tyson tells you must. Yeah, fundies, better start towing that line like Dan is. Now that we've pointed it out, Dan's made it clear from the comments, because he's a coward, that he does believe in drift. Not showing it. He's claiming the reference frames used to claim it are debunked, ruined. But he believes in it. So I'd like Dan to explain now, given that this is getting worse by the day for Dan, how exactly he believes in drift when the reference frames are ruined. That needs a bit of explanation. Dan, you complete clown.
Amazing.
Reference frames ruined.
I'm telling you, they don't think things through.
No,
Well,
he's thick.
if he's debunking reference frames, how do you do your calculations for things if reference frames don't exist or they're debunked? Please explain.
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Because obviously I'm not making any claims that need reference frames. But Neil deGrasse Tyson makes a claim that is supposed to be proving Earth spins with reference frames that are ruined, says SciManDan, the drift believer. What are you believing in, Dan? Is it just a belief, given that you're showing us how we don't have drift and claiming the reference frames used to assert it are ruined? Just a belief then, Dan, yeah? Just your fundy religious belief. Because obviously there's no drift, or you wouldn't be showing us examples to justify why there's no drift and telling us the reference frames to use to claim drift are ruined. Why would you be doing that, Dan, if you're a believer in the drift? You need the reference frames that are ruined to make that claim that you believe in. You fool. This gets better and better, eh, lads?
It absolutely does. They're gonna eat their own soon.
Yeah, he's eating something salty at the moment. Moving on.
They argue.
Go on.
They argue for and against the same position, violating the law of non-contradiction. They violate all logic when they do that. It's the chief rule of logic. I mean, it's over the minute they take both sides.
I'm telling you, they do not think things through.
Yeah. You don't think things through, Dan. You should have thought through claiming the reference frames needed to claim Earth spinning are debunked or ruined, right? They're ruined. How are you going to use them then? They're ruined. They're in shatters, tatters and pieces all over the floor, Dan. And you've shown us how, right? No drift. But you believe in it. Epic. Oh, Dan's just the perfect person for this too, isn't he? Smarmy bastard. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No drift.
No drift! Thanks, Dan!
Nope, no proof. Every time it's tested, it turns out to be completely false.
I'm wondering if they'll ever get some sort of proof, or maybe if they'll dig deeper.
It's a model, Neil. They can't dig deeper in a model. It's reified model. That's the way you have to, when you're talking to a globe, or at least this is the way I do it. I can't tell others how to do it, but
they could conceptually dig deeper in the model.
There we go. Conceptual digging. I'm into that.
Yeah.
My back won't hurt.
But the problem is that when they try to basically cross-reference that with actual physical reality, the readouts don't match, and that's the issue.
So the actual digging doesn't match the conceptual digging?
Correct.
Yep.
10th man and Arwin, ladies and gentlemen. Woohoo!
DNS waves.
You got it. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope. Go ahead, Arwin. Okay,
Yeah.
get your line out.
It's over there somewhere, but there's clouds before it, or in front of it, I mean. But, yeah, what is it?
Yeah, what is the sun?
It's the light to govern the day. That's it.
Is it anywhere? Or is it just something we're seeing?
You can assume it's
come
somewhere.
on.
You can assume it. Flat Earth or globe side. You can assume it's a physical thing, tangible, measurable, and then triangulate it.
So, in short, no actual measurement to the distance.
No. Maybe I should plug that. Might be people who are new subscribers that are unaware in the playlist. I can't remember if it's on Nathan Oakley channel or Nathan Oakley 1980 channel. I can't remember which channel I used to host that event. But that was pretty early on in my Flat Earth career, if you want to call it that. Tracking the sun on a Flat Earth live. Getting everyone all over the plane to track the sun during the equinox and point their sun at the horizon, see it coming up while other people had it in their camera view at midday. That was done twice. It's not a tangible object. The sun isn't a thing. That might sound like laughable. And I remember doing the interview with Vice, and they asked me that question. I'm like, I don't know what the sun is. I don't know what the moon is. And that got a lot of laughs. It's like, okay. I don't. You only think you know what it is based on lies that have transpired in a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. So, okay, you think it's a rock flying around above us in a vacuum. That's preposterous. Me, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I know I can't measure it.
Well, a good analogy would be Santa Claus, because you'd say to a baller, okay, remember how your parents just loved to get you presents and reify Santa Claus, and then you remember the age you were when you realized it was just a made-up story and was just for the fun of it. Okay, do you still believe in Santa Claus today? And they say no. Say, okay, so you grew up thinking that the schools and the books were saying you can have gas next to a vacuum and you can have spin but not feel the spin or measure the spin anyway, no earth-based Coriolis. Now that we hear the good arguments, are you going to still cling on to fictitious Santa Claus, so to speak, on these so-called globe proofs that aren't globe proofs? It's time for them to realize it's just like Santa Claus. It's just a story.
Yeah, it's interwoven at some point. A few years back, they had the ISS, the light in the sky, that they claim is a tin can with men flying around inside it. They told the children that it was Santa Claus. They encouraged parents here in the UK to go out Christmas Eve, when it did a flyover by their vernacular, and say it's Santa to your kids. That's what they told them. Now, that won't have set off any alarm bells in any normies, but it made me smile. It's like, yeah, see how easy they can just say the light in the sky is something that it's not. Just say it's Santa. Right? Now, if for the sake of argument you flip those two narratives around, yeah, and say that the rhetoric that's televised is Santa on his sleigh, and you look up at it and that funny shape is actually the shape of Santa's sleigh because they make Santa's shape into that shape that you can see through your telescope, if you can see it, if you can catch it. They say, well, that's the shape of Santa's sleigh. They rearrange the story to make that the shape, and Bob's your uncle. Here's some televised footage of Santa on his sleigh, and look, he's got the earth beneath him. You can do it with Superman. It doesn't matter, really. You can do whatever you like. You can turn the light into the sky into anything. You can turn it into a gas in a vacuum. Just say it and it's so, right? Well, because they've got footage of what they say the light in the sky is, in this form Santa Claus, does that mean it's so? Does that make the light in the sky Santa because they're showing you video footage that correlates with what the light does? No. And likewise, just because they say it's men in a tin can, there's the light going by. I see the light. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. What's that? What's the bit on TV? That's what the light is it? Why? Because you say so? No. They're claiming the tin can, not the light, the tin can is in a sky vacuum. And they look through the little window, down on the clouds, the high pressure gas, and they look next to it and see the vast blackness of space, a sky vacuum, and they don't see any of the gas filling it. It's not an issue. But they need pretty thick glass to stop the gas that they're breathing filling that vacuum, even though the Earth that they're looking down on hasn't got that problem. It's an absolute joke. Just like Santa would be if I claimed that Santa or Superman were that light in the sky.
So are they saying the ISS is orbiting?
Yeah, they beg the question that it's falling around a sphere Earth, of course. That's a very useful word they use to beg that question, Neil.
So, like, shouldn't they be able to demonstrate orbiting, like, in a small scale? So at least we could see it?
I don't know, Neil. That's not my claim.
You want to demonstrate something falling in a circle? Really?
They just appeal to the lights in the sky. So look at Jupiter. It's got little lights moving around it. And what they are doing is falling around a presupposed physical body that's an orbit. And the moon does that around us. We're also a spherical body and things fall around us. That's all they do. They point at a light in the sky and say that motion that those lights are performing is an orbit. And therefore, we're a sphere and things fall around us, like the ISS.
Yeah, like why can't they do it in a vacuum chamber? Demonstrate this to me so I can see it.
Why would they need to do that? There is no natural vacuums. Nature abhors a vacuum.
But so what you're saying, Nathan, their claim is that the crib is the same as the mobile above the crib?
That's right.
Is that what they're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Make sure I get it.
It's like you being in a forest, looking around, all around you, and going, "Oh, there's trees everywhere. That must mean I'm a tree." They look up at the lights and go, "Look at what those lights do. We're one of those lights. We do what that light does."
It's really silly when you think about it.
Well, isn't it based on kind of like a dreaming process that children typically dwell upon? They do that all the time. They see something, they get inspired by it, and they basically personify it, or they make themselves into that. Like they see something, and now they're that because they're fantasizing about it.
I was about to
Kind of
say
makes
that you
sense.
took
The
the words out of my
mechanism.
mouth. Yeah, because children are fantasists.
When you lie about what you live on, you got to keep lying about it to the future generations as technology increases and there's ways of figuring out things that you didn't have when you originated the lie. So now we've come to year 2020 and we're asking simple questions. Actually, that could have been asked back then, I guess. But anyway, we're asking them now. And they are lying and can't even validate their own actual necessity for Earth-based Coriolis, which is 2 reference frames. They got to have it, and they're in denial of it. For the last 500 plus years, they've been saying we have 2 reference frames, but now they're saying we don't have 2 reference frames.
I think that's it. That's all the housekeeping questions covered. Not bad for a Friday afternoon, half an hour.
Yeah.
Or Sunday.
It's Friday.
It's
Friday.
Watching this on the second channel. This is Sunday. So now the question is... Go on.
No, I'm going to have to go listen to yesterday's show. It sounded like it was a zinger of a show.
Well, I mentioned this in the pre-show, but members have already got this. So if you're a Nathan Oakley 1980 member, you can watch the full 3-hour epic show yesterday. The pre-show was so quiet. Obviously, the calm before the storm. But yeah, that's now published. So if you remember, you can watch that now. However, although I don't typically do this, I'd wait till after it goes out on the second channel, which this show that you're watching now will be out on Sunday. So if you're watching this and you're not a member, you're watching it on Sunday. But that gap in between, typically I'd leave without publishing anything prior to it going out on the second channel to encourage people to subscribe to my second channel. So I might as well plug that now in the interim. Go and subscribe to my second channel. There's a link below. It's where the Uncut and After show goes out exclusively. So it goes out there first. Typically, sometimes I do put out the show, but that's an aside issue. But typically, it'll go out exclusively on the second channel. That's what it's for. Uncut and After show, as opposed to this, which is now live if you're watching live. Anyway, I've trimmed out 2 sections from yesterday's After show. The first I've already published, which was Daily T arguing for having a drift as the Earth turns underneath the pendulum, only to later claim he's not claiming drift because it's explained how the plane's only got 1 reference frame. Fell into the same exact trap as Dan, basically. Claim you've got 2 reference frames in the form of deviation, or precession as he phrased it, drift, basically, in the form of a pendulum and Earth turning underneath it, only to later deny it when you point out that doesn't happen with an aeroplane. Oh, no, all travelling together, 1 reference frame. Then they challenge us why we would ever assert that there's 2 when we don't. You do, fundies do, and you and your reference frames are ruined. Not a claim we're making, end of argument. Very annoying when he denies that he's claiming drift, when he literally 46 seconds ago said precession's dependent on latitude, precession being drift. Later to be denied because he hasn't got any. Earth doesn't demonstrate this effect. That would be the cause of a plane having a shortened flight time. The cause of Coriolis drift is Earth turning underneath stuff. That would include planes and drones and balloons, helicopters, anything else not attached. We don't observe the effect, so they start arguing with us about why the hell we wouldn't have 2 reference frames, their claim. So that was summarised and debated about with Danny, agreeing with me wholeheartedly when I described the pendulum and Earth turning underneath its second reference frame, until he had to justify why that doesn't happen with a plane. So that's the full rendition of the argument. Well worth listening to. It's called... I can't remember what I've even labelled it. I forget now. Anyway, that's now been published. But the better one I'm saving, which is going to come out tonight. So on Nathan Oakley 1980, at the typical Uncut and After show time, I'm going to put out, I think I'm going to put it out an hour later actually, about 10 o'clock, because it's only half an hour long. That'll be on this channel. So if you're watching live now, Nathan Oakley 1980, 10 p.m. tonight UK time, which is about 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, I believe. There or thereabouts. Something like that. There's a show that's going to be called SciManDan Judgment Day. And the reason it's called Judgment Day is because Rumpus, the slippery scumbag lawyer, came in to defend Dan, with Dan telling him what to say from the chat like a coward. So hence us describing sort of it being like a court ended up being the reason for the title Judgment Day. But there's a picture of Dan like the Terminator 2 with his head splashed to pieces.
Did you watch it?
I've watched it about 5 times. I haven't even published it yet. It's one of those when I've got a good show, I've edited it. Normally you're exhausted and you don't want to do anything else, but I watched it over and over again. I wanted to make sure it was like right on the money when I was editing it. So I've watched it and watched it and watched it. Then I've put it up, waiting to publish it tonight. And I watched it again this morning when I woke up. I'm like, this is great. I can't wait to publish this.
Right. And I meant actually the Terminator movies.
Of course.
So it was kind of...
Of course
No,
I've watched
recently.
Terminator 2.
That you picked that name for it. Did you just recently watch it? Like yesterday
No.
or something?
Not at all.
Oh,
No,
okay.
it's just because Judgment Day, because it's related to judging Dan for his egregious error. His egregious error being the claim that we don't have drift and that reference frames have been ruined, when it's their claim that needs reference frames. Well, he's being judged on that, and his lawyer, in our vernacular, we were calling Rumpus his lawyer.
Right. Oh, yeah. I get it. Yeah, it's a good one.
But it
Of
just-
all the lawyers he can have.
yeah.
Well,
employ
Rumpus volunteered.
Better call Rumpus.
You need Rumpus. Yeah, well, you need Rumpus in those scenarios. You need a slippery, slimy scumbag to come in and defend someone's error, like Dan, when he claims that the reference frames used to claim drift are ruined. You're going to need some scummy lawyering to be done, and that's what's happened.
And he claimed you're misrepresenting him and you're not telling the truth.
Yeah, he kept doing it. And fair to his credit, right? I'll admit this. He's in Discord. He can't see what's presented to the audience. But it doesn't matter. He's saying I'm misrepresenting him while it's playing. That's the bottom line. You know, he'd prefer that it wasn't actually up on screen while he says I'm misrepresenting him. So it just is his words being paid attention to, rather than the actual demo he's claiming I'm misrepresenting. It's like, no, that's not going to fly. The audience aren't thick. They can see it. I'll just do a quick shout out to James Richard. It is so obvious the earth is flat and motionless. One must be deceived otherwise. Can't believe I was deceived. Yeah, right on the money. Exactly. It's that introspection that I really do appreciate, James. Yeah, I can't believe it either. You know, I look back and laugh now, but, you know, you shake. Yeah, I'm doing it now. I'm doing the action. I'm shaking my head going, I can't believe I believed that nonsense. When you look back on it, it seems farcical, right? Worse than that, can you imagine being a guy like Dan to have to... What the hell are you going to do if you're that guy that sees me saying, nah, Earth would turn underneath the plane, 2 reference frames, and you go, I can debunk that. Nah, you're saying 2 reference frames, Nathan, Flat Earther. You're saying 2 reference frames. Nah, reference frames that you're saying are destroyed. Hello? I'm not saying reference frames. You are. So imagine how embarrassing that would be to then have to come in and kowtow to Rumpus and say, yeah, Rumpus, I do really believe in drift. How embarrassing is that? Now, that's what you've got to contend with if you're a globe proponent. Absolutely humiliating.
That's what you get when you try to improvise and you're not very good at it. SciManDan. Now you got a problem.
Isn't life great?
Yeah, it's pretty sweet being a flat earther. That was another video I released this week. Feel good flat earth? It's like, yeah, feels pretty good to be a flat earther in 2020. In fact, it feels great. Really rubbing people like SciManDan's nose in his egregious error. Epic.
Chewy put out a video with Roofy. I don't know when it was from. It was a toe tag. It was interesting to hear Arwen talk about gravity.
Oh, back in the day when he was arguing with Anthony. Yeah, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
I can still do that, you know.
Neil, don't
I can
cut him
still
off.
just say, no, there has to be a force disequilibrium field present at all time. It explains relative density. I can still do that if you like.
But that's correct. You convinced us. You were right all along. So, yeah, you can.
It's just that I understand now better the foundations of science. That was kind of the problem back then. I just couldn't believe that something that was so seemingly obviously there could but just be negated because I couldn't vary and manipulate anything about it. That was the part that I had a lot of difficulty with.
That was great.
And now I get it.
A lot of people hated that, but it was, I mean, it's equal thanks to Sleeping Warrior, really, because it was him and you going at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but what's more interesting was how stupid Rufy and them were. They just couldn't get the gas pressure out of container. How many times you and QE went over it with them, they just couldn't grasp it.
Yeah. Cognitive dissonance, basically.
It's hard to grasp gas. You need a container for that.
Boom, boom! That was the sound of the bouncy ball sitting in the bottom of the fish tank.
Well, maybe if they were actually contained within those balls, then they could end up at the bottom of a fish tank. But if the balls themselves were gas, then they would not.
Yeah, bouncy balls are solid, so eh?
Well, they kept saying gravity. No matter how many times you explained the gravity thing, they kept saying gravity.
Yeah, they chant. It's obviously before we started to coin some of these phrases for what they're doing. Gravity, 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 gravity. They're chanting.
Sounds like a chain gang.
You know, I actually brought this up to one. This is along the lines of the thought process, but it triggered a thought in me how important R is. You know, because if R does not exist, which means there is no radius, then they would have to look for different explanations for everything themselves. But as long as they have R, they can espouse everything else.
But
you know, like, go ahead.
But their vantage point is the Earth being a globe, so they, of course, assume R. Otherwise, the whole endeavor of trying to prove the Earth is a globe or reify that it's pointless. So, of course, you have R.
Yep. Every single claim to be globe-proof will start with the presupposition that you're on a globe. Now, to boil that down in geometric terminology, every assertion that claims to prove you're on a globe starts with the assumption of the radius value. Correct, Paul. Correct, Darwin. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like, just like for gas pressure as an example, if there's no radius, then there have to be something else in their mind that would create the pressure differential, you know, and they would have to look for another reason why, you know. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. The more I think about it, I was like, if they get rid of R, the whole thing breaks down.
The whole pressure gradient, pressure differential is completely useless because it's still based on a gravity conception that kind of goes with Newtonian mechanics, and Newtonian mechanics completely excludes gas. It just doesn't mention it. You just imagine it's not there. That's the type of mechanics they're dealing with. So to then imagine why the gas pressure gradient would be with gravity, it's a broken train of thought. It's more an imagination. It's not even technically tied in with the mechanics of their model. It's a futile attempt.
You know they're grasping at straws when Danny Faulkner says that the low pressure above an airplane wing is a vacuum.
Nice. Where did you get the gas pressure from in the first place? That's a gas pressure differential. Where'd you get the gas pressure in the first place? How do you have gas pressure without a container is the original question. And all they ever do is assert how they can create a differential within existing gas pressure. It's like, no. Where'd you get the gas in the first place? Because gas is created at ground level. And the reason it's up on the top of Everest, gas that is, the stuff you're breathing, that people can breathe up there, is because it's made its way up. Now, gas expands in all directions to fill the availability of volume it has to fill. Now, imagine that first gas particle being produced and then making its way up. And it goes up and up and up and up and up. Does it suddenly stop at the Kármán line and go, I'm going to chill here? In complete violation of natural law. I'm not just going to keep going until I strike something. No, I'm going to stop. No, that's not what gas does. So the first gas particle goes out and all it does, because it's surrounded by a vacuum, is move out in the direction it's moving and keep going. And then the next one comes out and it does the same thing it disappears into space, just flies off. So you never achieve gas pressure if you haven't got containment in the first instance. So when they say, well, we've got a differential in the existing gas that would need containment in the first place, so I can give you this red herring about a differential in the gas pressure, you're asking us how it even exists if the sky is a vacuum, because it would all go into the vacuum. That's what gas does.
Unless they run out of energy and they decide to just stop.
That doesn't happen.
Vapors against entropy.
Doesn't happen. Gas doesn't stop. That would be reaching absolute zero. Doesn't occur ever. So no, under any that will not occur in any circumstances ever. It'll always keep going. It might eventually reach the edge of its containment and bounce off it and go in the other direction. But if there isn't any containment, there'll never be any gas pressure. So there are examples that are a red herring where they describe gas pressure differentials first require gas pressure. And that's what we're asking about. How can you have gas pressure in the first place if the sky's a vacuum? If this blue area, I like doing it with blue. I'm going to start doing it with blue from now on. If this blue area is a massive vacuum, then what do you think's going to happen? All of this gas that we like breathing, yummy, yummy, yummy gas, is going to vacate into it. That's what happens. Gas expands to fill the availability of volume it has. So if the sky was a vacuum, the gas would fill it, and we'd all be dead.
But we're not. Just go outside and look up. We're still here.
Let's go outside. You experience gas pressure. There's no need to justify anything further than that. What's your proof that we have containment? Just go outside. There's gas pressure. And without the container, there can be no gas pressure.
They're never answering the direct question, which is, how do you have gas pressure without a container? They're going into differentials, they're going into phase changes of gas. They're doing everything but answer the question of how did we get the pressure in the first place?
Yeah,
but isn't Jupiter a gas planet?
Say again, sorry, Neil.
Isn't Jupiter, you could see it.
Well, they say Jupiter is in the vacuum, but you can't have gas, a ball of gas in the vacuum, can you now?
No, they use that. No, they use the lights in the sky with another fundamentalist religious presupposition that they're gas in violation of natural law, not expanding into vacuums. Thunderfoot tried that one. Well, look at this here light in the sky through my telescope. That's a gas, and it's not expanding into a vacuum. Check out that light that's violating natural law. No, it isn't. That's just you telling us that it's a light that's a gas in a vacuum in violation of natural law. It's not a demonstration of gas pressure without a container, and it certainly isn't a demonstration of a ball of gas in a vacuum. Just your claim that that's what the lights in the sky represent, because you're a fundy who thinks they're gas violating natural law in a vacuum. That doesn't prove anything. It just proves you can beg the question. I can prove the sky is a vacuum. Well, how'd you prove it? I look at the lights and say that they're not expanding into the vacuum that I assume. Yeah, great. Paraphrasing Newton. Hold on, just read James Richard. Paraphrasing Newton. Please don't put gravity on me. One would not want to be a moron. Oh, it's gone. Hold on. Scrolled off my page. Hold on. But paraphrasing Newton. Please don't put gravity on me. One would have to be a moron to believe it. Ballers. Newton's law of gravity. Ballers can't read. Thanks very much, James.
When he said that you can have gas in outer space, the way they describe outer space, say Jupiter, for example, and that violates natural law. How could he even say natural law? Natural law is inviolable.
Well, how would you prove?
I knew that was coming.
Well, the whole point of natural law is that this is it. There's no way around it. This is how it works, and it's inviolable. So now you're going to say, well, Jupiter violates natural law. Well, then it's no longer natural law then, if that happens.
But what if the gas would break the natural law?
Then it wouldn't be a natural law.
Right. So what if it's not a natural law?
We'd have
But
to
it is a
disprove
natural law.
You
They
need
have to demonstrate it's not first.
Exactly.
But what if it's not a natural law?
You need to violate it. Violate it, and it won't be.
That's right.
Well, maybe they are violated, but we can't see it because they're gas. It's very tough to see them do something or not do something.
That's a special pleading fallacy.
I know.
Maybe it's so tough to see that you think you're seeing gas, but it's not gas that you say we're seeing. How about it's so
I'm
tough
just
for
saying things might be different.
Exactly.
I just said that's a special pleading fallacy.
Well, you got to be special if you want to plead for the ball. So there you go.
That's it. Got to be very special to claim that reference frames required to show drift are ruined. Very special.
You're not going to get off this, are you, Nathan?
No, I'm never going to let that lie. Like gas, go down, go boom, boom, like bouncy balls in a fish tank. Why would you ever let that fish back into the water?
Obviously, my volume is very, very low.
What's
I hear
that,
somebody
Rumpus?
talking. Is that Rumpus?
Yeah, what's that, Rumpus? You're kind of low. What are you going to talk about now?
Very low. Well, I had my volume turned down, obviously, as Nathan always does.
Okay, now you're going to start with the crying means, or just get to it, please.
Shall I turn your volume down then? See how you feel about that. So we turn your volume down. Let's do that. Let's turn your volume down. Let's do that to you. Let's do that now.
Well, why don't you come on like a normal human being and just get to the point?
I am.
Well, say hello.
Well,
How you doing?
I was saying there's no such thing as natural law is a completely fictitious, made-up thing by QE that Nathan parrots because he's too stupid to realise that QE is stupid.
Oh.
I gave Rumpus an idea, didn't I?
No, it's just claimed that we made up
QE
natural
made up
laws.
natural
Sorry,
law.
hold on, guys. It's just claimed we make up natural laws.
Yeah.
So Nathan, when you stand on the scales in your bathroom, those scales register a force called your weight. And gas molecules also feel the same force. And that's why they don't disappear off. It's really, really simple.
How do you weigh a gas?
Sorry?
How do you weigh a gas? Describe the process.
You would put it in a container.
So you need a container then? So without the container, there can be no weighing it. So you definitely need a container then. Wouldn't that just be you're forcing a huge amount of this gas that expands in all directions inside that container to be inside a container, giving the container more downward vector because the container's a solid. But inside that container, the gas is expanding in all directions inside the container.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it didn't have that container, it wouldn't be pressing down. It would be expanding in all directions, all vectors. Not a downward vector. All vectors, same as when it was in the container being weighed. All vectors, not just down.
Right, let me explain to you. Do you understand the way...
You're going to ask me something? No concession. Long pause, he heard me. Not all vectors, not down, not weight. All vectors, all directions inside that container. Just whistle past it, maybe.
No, I'm going to...
Rumpus, did he debunk your claim right there, yes or no?
How about interrupting me and let me answer the question?
No, answer me this. Why is it that Dan's asserting that the reference frames used by Neil deGrasse Tyson are ruined?
What?
Why is it that you told me that I was misrepresenting, misunderstanding, or misquoting a Dan quote that said specifically that you and your reference frames are ruined? SciManDan. Now, you and your reference frames are used to claim Coriolis drift, something Dan didn't show in his example. And I'm asking you, his representative, it would seem, what reference frames are ruined?
I have no idea what this reference frame...
It's something you told me I was misrepresenting, and yet you don't know what I'm talking about now. It seems very interesting that on your first gambit, you were very specifically telling me I was misrepresenting this.
Change the subject.
You're just talking through me now. It's the demonstration of his absolute fundamentalist religious zealotry, not listening to a word. Watch the light on Rumpus's name flash from now on while I talk, meaning he's not listening. He's talking constantly so he doesn't have to listen to this. No worries. No problem. I don't mind. He's a fundie. He's being pummeled. He's representative of SciManDan. The quote Dan has quoted to me on a tweet, I was told I was misrepresenting or misquoting. I've now on 2 consecutive days, quoted it to him, and he said, I don't know what you're talking about. I'll repeat it. This is a quote from Dan. You and your reference frames.
Video.
Fundy mute coward. So you're going to talk through this? Something that you said I was misrepresenting. You don't seem to want to hear it quoted anymore.
The tractor video.
Yeah, you're not listening to me quote Dan. This is devastating, ladies and gentlemen. What Rumpus is doing at the moment is talking constantly in the Discord server in the vain hope that you won't hear me repeat Dan's quote. The one I was supposed to be misrepresenting. The one that he doesn't want to hear now. Because I'm asking him, whose reference frames are ruined?
You misrepresented him about the...
You and your reference frames are ruined. End quote, SciManDan. Whose reference frames are ruined?
You misrepresented...
He just keeps telling me what he's saying in the Discord server while you watch his light flash constantly is you're misrepresenting him. You're misrepresenting him. You're misrepresenting... So he doesn't have to listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying Dan said you and your reference frames are ruined, and I'm asking, who are you and who are the reference frames belonging to? Because they're not mine.
You misrepresented...
See? Just saying over and over again so he doesn't have to listen. What a coward. Scaredy cat. Scaredy cat. Dan ruined your reference frames.
You misrepresented...
Scaredy cat. Scaredy cat. Dan ruined your reference frames.
You misrepresented...
Scaredy cat. Scaredy cat. That's all he's doing. He's just saying the same thing over and over again so he doesn't have to listen. That's all he's doing. It's a pathetic attempt to defend SciManDan's egregious error. Just talk constantly while I point it out. See that light flashing? Yeah? This light here is him basically saying, I'm not going to listen to a word of this. When Dan, quote, SciManDan, quote, you and your reference frames are ruined.
About the
See, she's saying it over and over again, so he doesn't have to listen to it. I'm asking you whose reference frames these are. That better be obfuscated indefinitely. I don't mind. Keep obfuscating it and I'll keep asking. Because the audience, Rumpus, while you talk through me constantly, is going to recognise that you're in fear of this question. You're scared. And when you're scared, typically you'll project that onto me and tell me that I'm scared of Dan's ruined reference frames.
You misrepresented him.
See, just saying the same thing over and over. What a coward. Basically, I'm not going to listen to any of this. I'm not going to listen or respond to your claim about Dan's quote that he said I didn't understand. But yeah, he doesn't want it repeated. Doesn't want to address the reference frames he needs to show Earth's turning underneath to claim it's spinning. And Dan saying those reference frames used to show Earth spinning underneath, deviation and drift. That precession in the gyro, that precession in the pendulum, that's drift. 2 reference frames. And I'm asking, over and over again, which reference frames are ruined?
About the tractor video.
Yeah, it's just saying the same thing. I think it's only reasonable that I round out the show, making it clear that Rumpus doesn't want to hear this. He's not going to answer, so I'll answer for him. I'll tell you. They're your reference frames that you need to claim Earth spins underneath. It doesn't. There's no drift. I've got a little example of Dan showing us what no drift looks like. And apparently those reference frames, you and your reference frames, Rumpus, they're ruined. Now, hearing that and responding to that would be devastating. So you can be damn sure that this little light's going to keep flashing the entire time that I'm saying you and your reference frames are ruined. Better not let that quote come through to Discord, because you can be damn sure I'm going to make the audience hear it. It's Dan's egregious error. Thank you, Dan. No drift.
You have misrepresented.
He's in
Still
chat,
saying
by
the
way.
same thing. Literally still saying the same thing in a non-stop record
Of
loop.
course he's in chat. He's a coward, this SciManDan.
Yep, abject coward. I run a public show, Dan. Unlike your show where you'd edit your videos with a script, publish them, and then go through the comments to remove any that don't agree with you, this is a public show that you can join. You can join and challenge me. When I say you've made an egregious error and you are a clown, and that you're debunking your side's claim that needs reference frames by saying they're ruined, you can challenge that. Maybe come in and tell me all about the conservation of angular momentum or linear momentum, so I can point out that that flies in the face of Neil deGrasse Tyson's claim that there's 2 reference frames, the ones you say are ruined, Dan. You can come and challenge that. I've got a public show. I'm not a coward in an echo chamber like SciManDan. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Undoubtedly, there'll be some lawyering on SciManDan's behalf by the greasy scumbag that is Liar Rumpus. Massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat in the live show. If you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
He doesn't realize he just double spoke.
No doubt about it.
Say again.
Say again what?
I've met some strange people in my life, but I don't know what's wrong with him, honestly. There's some mental deficiency going on there, extremely.
Who?
He literally just, the rumpus, like he just literally repeated one word for 10 minutes straight, like we didn't hear it 1,000 times. It was just obnoxious, just...
Yeah, but he muted me. So if he mutes me,
no one else needs to hear your crap though, Rumpus. No one else needs to.
No, if I muted you, let's see if he'll let me respond to him. If I muted you, he's not going to. He's going to do it now.
If I wasn't
say it again,
muted, I wouldn't have to do
say it again. Say it again, Rumpus. Say it again. Why'd you do it?
No one muted you, Rumpus.
So I'll try and respond to that. If I muted you, Rumpus, you would have stuck your fingers in your ears and gone on deafen. So
you muted me.
So if I'd have put you on mute, you would have put yourself on server deafen. But because you're only willing to speak and not willing to listen, you'll, like now, keep talking indefinitely and not listen.
Are you saying I'm not going to be muted? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying,
shut up, Rumpus.
Let's see if he'll let me respond to him. Let me see if he'll let me respond or talk constantly.
You like being muted on the stream, Nathan? Tell
me. Just mute him.
I'm asking him if he'll let me respond or he'll demonstrate what he does continually.
Will you answer my question, please?
I'm trying to get a word in, but every time I start talking, you start talking through me like you're doing now. So, unfortunately, you're not allowing me to answer you, Rumpus. You're not allowing me to put anything to you. You're not allowing anything other than your voice constantly interrupting everybody, stopping Discord hearing anything like you're doing now. You're doing it right now.
Get a grip, Rumpus.
Get a grip, man.
Get a grip.
Am I going to get a chance to talk to you, Rumpus, or not?
Did you mute me on the stream, Nathan?
Yeah, you're constantly appealing to this issue you have.
Did you mute me on the stream?
Sorry, if I muted you, you would have stuck your fingers in your ears.
Did you mute me on the stream?
No, you'd see it. So for the audience, right, there's Rumpus appearing with his little mute button, and it's not muted. When he is, he's just saying the same thing 10 times now, ladies and gentlemen, over and over again, saying the exact same thing, so that I can't be heard responding to him. That's his trick.
No, answer the question. You're being a liar here, aren't you? You're actually lying. I don't often accuse people of lying, but you are lying here. We all know that you muted me on the stream.
No.
Now, if we go to the video now,
I'll say it again.
I will not be there.
I'll say it again. You are being muted right now. Let's see how long it takes him to stick his fingers in his ears. So now you are muted. The audience is watching me do it. Now you cannot talk.
I told him.
Let's see. Shut up!
Nathan,
shut the fuck up! Talking to Rumpus now. Shut up! Not going to tell you again. He's immediately stuck his fingers in his ears now that he is muted. So now I'll take him off mute, and let's see if I can get a response to him. Bearing in mind, as demonstrated, when I mute him, he puts his fingers in his ears. Because unless it's him talking constantly, he will not listen. Now he thinks his little game is going to be getting away with not addressing the actual question. That while he repeated himself and was pointed out by the guy who's just interrupted me, thank you very much for pointing it out, but then please don't interrupt me constantly like he does. God. Yeah? When he gets put on mute to stop him constantly interrupting, he stops listening. Because listening might involve him having to respond to what's actually on the table. Now, he needs to talk about muting. Because that's not talking about Dan stating clearly that you and your reference frames are destroyed. Now that he's been put on mute and taken off mute, he's not listening anymore because he can't get away with talking through everybody. So he's going to fuck off. That's what he does. Now, when I was claimed to be lying, you put me on mute. No, I haven't. Let's see what happens when I do, though. Oh, he puts himself on deafen so he doesn't have to listen anymore, because then he can't get away with stopping people in Discord hearing, which is what he did. I'm done.
Yeah, the only reason he thinks you're lying because I tagged him in a post saying that you've been muted on the show. Stop. I only said that. I lied. I'm the one who lied, and I said that because I just sick of hearing him saying the same thing over and over and over. So I just said it to shut him up, but obviously it didn't work, and then he believed it, and then he accused you of it.
He's censoring. He's censoring what I'm saying, and I'm not going to tolerate that.
He's a one-trick pony.
One-trick pony. That's all he's got. When there's something devastating, make sure it doesn't get heard. So he's saying, oh, well, because I was muted. Well, if you were muted, what would be the necessity to say the same thing 50,000 times? Obviously, he's projecting his lies onto me. He's muting us. You can't hear anything, right? Well, that's the point. He's muting us and then lying and claiming I'm doing it to him. He's making damn sure nothing can be heard by muting us. They just turn that around and say, well, you've muted me on the show. Well, let's see what happens when I mute you. Oh, there we go. Fingers in the ears because he can't cause the disruption. But apparently he was muted. All right. So why put your fingers in your ears when you're actually muted?
No, because it, man.
That's true, because if he was muted, that's what he would do, innit? That's really true, Nathan.
Yeah, if he was actually muted, we wouldn't be hearing from him anymore. And we're not. Right? I demonstrated what happens when he gets muted. When we stop him constantly interrupting, that would be muting him, preventing that from happening, which it is constantly, and he's getting moaned at for it. Right? He's doing it constantly. Is that him muted? So he's not disturbing the entirety of the Discord server because he's been muted. No, that's a total lie. Oh, what's that? He doesn't like the fact that I've got me gated so that when I'm talking, he definitely can't interrupt me. Oh, right. You don't like that I get to be heard on my own fucking show, and you object to your constant interruption not being the only thing heard. Oh, right. I'm sorry, Rumpus. I'll hand over production of my show to you, so you can constantly say the same thing and claim you're muted. That's why everyone's moaning about it, right? Because you're muted whilst you're doing that? Because that would make a lot of sense, to talk constantly and have people moaning about how they can't hear anything, because you've been muted. Meaning you can't be heard. So why the fuck can everyone hear you non-stop ranting and saying the same thing 1,000 times? That's because you're not muted, you lying bastard. But saying the same thing 20,000 times is muting us. And why is he doing that? I'll tell you why. Because that little diatribe from me has also taken us further and further away from Dan's reference frames. And they're ruined. That's why I asked him when this all started. Before this all kicked off, what was my question to Rumpus? Hey, Rumpus, whose reference frames are ruined? Then constant fundy muting. Then a discussion about whether or not he's muted. Then claims I'm lying about muting him when everyone's moaning that they can't hear anything because he's constantly muting us. Lying bastards. Why do they need to come? Lie, deceive, obfuscate, distract. Well, it's because they're fucked. SciManDan's fucked. You're fucked, Dan. No drift. No second reference frame. Ruined, right, Dan? Well, that's not my claim. Your fundy side that uses reference frames, they're ruined, Dan. That's why we've just had that happen. Another little defence of Dan's mistake. That's all that was. Something needs to be done. So better complain about how the show's being run. You know what's happening? Rumpus is saying, oh my God, the audience can't hear me constantly trying to distract from this. That's outrageous.
Yes, SciManDan, you accidentally wrecked your own reference frames because of your switcheroo game. You fell for your own switcheroo trick. You didn't even notice. And you doubled down on it too. It's really funny to look at it.
If anyone's wondering how serious this is the 4th day in a row we've had white knighting for SciManDan. We've had Dan telling me that I don't understand his argument, and you're damn right I don't when you're supposed to be claiming drift, and your own side needs reference frames you say are ruined. Yeah. 4 days this has gone on. Yeah, this is important. Better know it. Humiliating for Dan.
Rumpus came in playing lawyer again today. I take it.
He did. Hey, Chocolate.
What's up, guys?
Guy. Relative, though.
Chocolate.
So,
Yo. The Rumpus, greasy lawyer today again?
Again, yeah.
Greasy lawyer.
He moans that his constant
he admitted
stream...
that he needed a container to weigh.
What word was he saying?
I can't remember now. He said it 1,000 times. Oh, he said you are misrepresenting his argument or something. I think that's what he was saying over and over.
You are misrepresenting his argument. You are misrepresenting his argument.
Oh, he said you're misrepresenting.
Wow. He's even speaking like a lawyer.
Yeah, but he admitted that
like you're misrepresenting my client. That's what I hear.
You're misrepresenting his argument. Right. No, he's misrepresenting his argument because it's his argument that we have 2 reference frames and drift. Remember, you got him to concede to the almighty Tyson that he does believe in drift? Right, Dan does believe, right? Yeah, that's because you need drift. However, his reference frames are ruined. How's he believing in drift, I ask his representative. And you know what we're going to get? You're misrepresenting his argument. You're misrepresenting his argument. You're misrepresenting his argument. You're misrepresenting his argument. That's what we get. And then when I don't allow that to reach the audience, I'm told that he's muted. No, he wasn't. Because if I did mute him and stop him doing that, preventing anyone in Discord hearing, he'd stick his fingers in his ears because then the trick wouldn't work. Because he'd actually be muted. Just lied, claimed I was doing that. When in reality, he's saying, you're muting me, you're muting me, you're muting me, you're muting me. That's the trick. By saying, you're muting me, you're muting me, you're muting me, no one can hear anything other than that. Muting everybody.
He did admit to a container, though.
I have a question for SciManDan through you, Nathan. So, SciManDan, if the spinning ball Earth has no 2 reference frames, apparently, because it's now our reference frames, according to you. So I guess that suggests that you don't have any anymore. So if you have no 2 reference frames, what causes the football to deviate?
He's not going to be able to answer that. The reference frames have been...
How does that work without 2 reference frames?
I've got an answer for you there, Arwin. I've already got one. Quote, SciManDan. You and your reference frames are ruined.
That's not a rebuttal to that.
It is actually. Because he just ruined Neil deGrasse Tyson's reference frames.
Absolutely.
So, but is he officially stating that? Like, we're dropping the reference frame?
Well, he's a moron.
Hold on, Chocolate. Yes, Sarwin. Yes, he is stating that. I'll give it again. Quote. You and your reference frames are ruined. End quote. SciManDan. That's definitely his official stance. He tweeted it out to the public. Attached to me, of course.
Yeah, that was a shit move, guy. Just destroyed yourself.
How do the reference frame that we never had, how are they ruined exactly?
They're not. We don't have any. Him and his reference frames are, though. So let's just take the quote marks out of it. Dan, you and your reference frames are ruined.
Yeah, we don't claim Earth is spinning. We do not need any reference frames.
To me, it just sounds like he's displaying his misunderstanding of Coriolis from the gate. Because if he's in chat yesterday saying, yeah, of course I believe in drift, Rumpus, and then his video saying you and your reference frames, well, you need reference frames to have drift. Dan?
Exactly.
Do you not get it? This is why we're laughing at you.
No, he don't get it.
Unless he maybe thinks that the drift is extra dimensionally.
So go make yourself another video where you try to explain to maybe yourself how you believing in drift will require your reference frames. clown.
Yeah, and when you come back and tell me about drift, Dan, because you believe in it now, right? Neil deGrasse Tyson, the priest, said so, and you had to kowtow to Rumpus and tell him how you believe in him. Yeah, once you've done that, come back and tell me how it works. And what I'll say is this. You and your reference frames are ruined. That's what I'll say.
Let us have this moment of silence for SciManDan.
I was just gonna say, rest in peace to Coriolis, rest in peace to Dan. Like,
rest in reference frames.
Well, Rumpus submitted to a container today. He acknowledged that you need a container to weigh gas.
For what gas?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, you ought to cut that out, Nathan. Just play it because you said, well, how do you weigh the gas? And he says, well, you need a container.
I think we need to organize a funeral for these reference frames.
Yeah, before they died, they were ruined.
A funeral procession.
A funeral procession? Boom, boom!
Nice one.
I mean, these things died a while ago with Zadig. I don't know why people like Dan want to keep bringing this shit back. This is probably one of your worst arguments, Coriolis. Besides the actual curve of the Earth, which you don't fucking have at all.
It's just like those images on YouTube where the Customs Department shows an aerial video of a drug dealer in a fast boat dumping all his cocaine in the ocean. Get rid of these reference frames. We can't prove anything.
Covering up their crimes, yeah.
I still want to know the answer.
He's really funny.
They're unloading it
doesn't
because he
challenge
can't
nobody on
defend
a live
it.
show.
Say again.
That's the one thing about SciManDan. He's just a little coward, really. You know, he sits behind his computer and spending weeks on doing videos, but doesn't show his face in an actual open public forum. And just what is the problem coming in here once? Like all of them, really, they all like go, "Oh, I'm not going in there because they're just afraid because the arguments don't hold water." That's it.
That's what it is. They know they'll get destroyed in here.
I do want to know the answer.
It's sad, really.
I want to know the answer to the question I asked Rumpus that triggered a load of Fundy muting, with him saying you're misrepresenting him 50,000 times to mute everybody and then lie and project that onto me. Nevertheless, I do want to know the answer to that question that he Fundy muted, which is whose reference frames are ruined, Dan? And then once you explain whose reference frames they are, how they've been ruined, to give context to your no drift example, then explain how the reference frames used that you believe in now, because it's been pointed out your error and you've had to concede, and tell us how you believe in them. And apparently we don't understand your video example that doesn't have any drift in it and doesn't show separate reference frames. And those reference frames that you need are ruined. Yeah, we need that all explaining. I'd like to know how they're ruined and whose they are, because we don't have any. It's only NDT and his claim that balls are seeming to drift because Earth turns underneath them in a separate reference frame. Well, that reference frame that's ruined, according to you, we're going to need that explaining.
Yeah, give us something.
Has anybody actually tested the claim when Neil
Anybody
deGrasse
catch him
Tyson
saying what?
said about the Coriolis effect? He also mentioned the coordinates of the football field. Does anybody actually cross-reference those coordinates that he was on about?
No. There's no need to.
I was going to say there's no need.
No, there's no need to, because if, as he says, the football was the people in the stands observing Earth-based Coriolis on the football, then all we have to do is say, then why aren't flight time shortened? Or how come the drone doesn't go 1,000 miles this way once it goes in the air, if it's at the equator?
Yeah, if our reference frames are ruined, that means there's no more Coriolis effect on Earth. So it's a little complicated. Oh, their Coriolis effect.
What do you mean no more? There wasn't any in the first place.
Well, there's Coriolis, but not Earth-based Coriolis.
That's what I said. No more Earth-based.
You got a citation for that, Chocolate?
Yeah.
Yes, SciManDan. SciManDan.
Every time I take a flight to California, it doesn't take me an hour or an hour and a half. It's actually faster for me to come back from California to the East Coast. That doesn't make any fucking sense because if the Earth is spinning underneath me, it'd be the complete opposite.
Yep.
The Earth is not turning.
It's funny, when I said citation, you said flight. You know, there's a plane called a citation.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
So on that Neil deGrasse Tyson thing, he said he did a quick calculation, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's hysterical.
What did he calculate?
Drift.
I don't know.
The amount
He calculated for our ruined reference.
Wait, hold on. If there's no reference frames, how did he calculate?
Exactly.
He couldn't.
That was
If those reference frames are ruined, obviously then meaning that when you've got a tractor pulling somebody, they don't just fly out the back of the tractor, drift away from the tractor. There's no drift, like in this example that SciManDan gave us, right? So this would be an example that doesn't show the man flying out the back of the tractor. That would be apparent drift. So if you had a GoPro, where these two people are on the top of this board that's stopping the wind hitting him, if they were holding a GoPro, right, and he was drifting, what that would mean is that as you filmed him, from the camera's perspective on the tractor, it would seem like he flies out in a curved motion. When in reality, a drift of that nature is only caused by him going up and down, but then the tractor moving away from him while he's in the air. So his motion is just up and down, and the apparent drift you would see from a camera attached to the tractor is curved. It looks like he's bouncing out. He isn't, he's just going up and down. So that's why it's an apparent drift. He's not bouncing up and out of the tractor, just up and down, but because the tractor moves underneath, that would be a demonstration of not actual deflection caused by him bouncing up and seeming to curve out if you watch him bounce up and the tractor move underneath from the frame of the tractor on a GoPro attached to the back of it. That's what a demonstration of drift would look like if you were using this. Now, it's exampled yesterday by QE. He says if you're on the back of a flatbed and it's going 75 miles an hour and you throw a ping pong ball in the air, obviously, if you're filming that ping pong ball, it looks like it flies away from you. Well, it's not. It's just going up and then down again, but you're moving away from it at 75 miles an hour. That's apparent drift. Now, Dan here is showing us the complete antithesis of that. And that example with not actual deflection, ping pong going out the back of a flatbed, or this man being filmed bouncing out of the back of the tractor if he was drifting, which he isn't, requires 2 reference frames. That's their claim. And he's telling us, no reference frames, they're ruined. He's saying our reference frames, incorrectly, are ruined. Like, well, what exactly do you believe in, Dan? You believe in drift with ruined reference frames, do you? Oh, that makes no sense. None at all.
I wonder what would happen if the tracker will pull a left, Nathan, or a right?
He'd probably drift away because there's nothing stopping the wind on the sides of it.
He wouldn't land back on the
There's no more
trampoline,
reference
that's for sure.
guys.
But if you filmed that, so
maybe
as the
he
tractor,
really meant.
that's a good example because if you filmed that from the tractor, right? So let's say the tractor suddenly takes a left turn right now while he's in the air. Now, what would happen from the tractor is he would look like he would curve out of the tractor sideways. That's what the view from the camera on the tractor would show. Him flying out sideways. But in reality, it's actually him just going up in the air and then the tractor moving left. So what looks like a curved motion out of the tractor is actually him just bouncing up and down. So not actual deflection from the tractor turning underneath. That's their claim. Earth turns underneath and you see things not attached drifting. Not actual drift, it's just you attached to something spinning underneath. As they claim Earth spins. And that deflection is the claim proof it spins. But you need reference frames to make that claim. So saying you and your reference frames are ruined, the only thing that's getting ruined is the Glober's claim that we have these reference frames to prove it spins.
They defeat themselves and they don't get it. It's amazing.
Yep. Self-defeating argument, Dan. You've undone your own claim of 2 reference frames by claiming they're ruined. You fool.
Here's something for you, Nathan. Let's think about this again. Imagine there was another tractor moving at the same velocity up that same road, and he could actually get up above the board and all of a sudden put a little thrust on him and he starts moving towards the other tractor. What would happen? Maybe behind him, moving at the same rate of speed.
I don't know. You tell me.
It probably would get there faster because the tractor behind him is moving towards him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there you go. There's your east-west flight.
Yeah. If this is showing that the man moves,
maybe Dan meant to send this tweet to Neil deGrasse Tyson. And maybe they should talk about whether there are reference frames or whose reference frames they are, because apparently Neil deGrasse thinks they're his reference frames, but Dan thinks they're ours. I don't know how that works out.
Calculation first.
Well, what is he calculating? How the football is going in what direction because of what? 2 different reference frames?
Yes.
So then whose reference frames got ruined again?
Theirs. The Glober's reference frames got ruined. Dan showed an example that doesn't have any drift when their claim is drift, and when put to task by Rumpus, his slimy lawyer, Dan declared in the chat yesterday he believes in the drift that he's not showing in this example, and he must also believe in the reference frames he says are ruined. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!